So, in the early 2000s, tuner culture was absolutely spiraling out of control, mainly because Fast and the Furious, all of these racing games like Midnight Club and Gran Turismo and Need for Speed and things like that, everybody wanted an Integra. Everybody wanted a Mazda Speed 3 or RX-7 or RX-8 or MK4 Super. People wanted these JDM vehicles. Dodge saw this and said, we can do it too. So they took a Dodge Neon with a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder, strapped a Mitsubishi turbo to it and said, ha ha, and it's got a 5-speed manual. They call it the SRT4, and it came, well, with some fairly decent horsepower. We're talking about 230 horsepower and 250 pound-feet of torque. And then Dodge, well, they gave the SRT4 treatment to the Neon's replacement, which is the, well, Dodge Caliber. We're talking about a 285 horsepower sleeper. You look at this, it looked like regular traffic back then until you got your doors blown off by some mom dropping her kids off to soccer practice. Then, well, after the SRT4 Caliber, we wouldn't see another SRT4 ever again. What I will mention is that the Dodge Dart of this generation should have been called a Dodge Neon. I mean, look at it. It looks like a futuristic successor of the SRT4 Neon, but it has subpar build quality, a whole lot of issues with the turbos. Some people say it was reliable, others say it was absolutely horrendous. And after a while, they pretty much just ended production. That was it. No, bro, the original Dodge Dart was an absolute masterpiece. You take a 67 Dodge Dart, gut the interior, make it as light as possible. You throw a 426 Hemi under the hood. Dodge telling everybody, it just make 425 horsepower. How much torque? Oh, 490, none serious, that's a lie. It made closer to 500 horsepower and like 550 pound-feet of torque. Now, you combine that with a vehicle that's less than like 2,800 pounds after you gut it. In the late 60s, you have the most unbeatable combination of that time. You talking about guys that were running 8 to 9 second passes in the 60s. They've been doing this shit. And there would be only a few vehicles that were going to match power like that. Either you had a Cobra Jet or a Copo Camaro. There are no in-betweens. Maybe a Pontiac with a spiced up 455, but that's an entirely different story. I like Cadillac because they have a whole lot of bangers that fly under the radar, like the STSV. It's basically a CTSV that made better decisions in life. Oh, and it wasn't slow either. You talking about 469 horsepower, 439 pound-feet of torque from a 4.4 liter Northstar V8 that was supercharged. And if you want to be technical, we're talking about like just over 500 horsepower at the crank. And I know what you finna say, but Guru, isn't the Northstar V8 a bad engine? Listen, you have the 4.6 Northstars that gave everybody problems, weak head bolts, just an overall badass engine, right? But then you have the LC3 4.4, which is in this thing. Partially closed deck block, Eaton M122 supercharger, stronger rods and pistons than the 4.6 Northstar. That ain't the most amazing part. This unsuspecting Diet CTSV did 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. Need I remind you, it's 2006 and this thing is doing 12.9 seconds in the quarter mile. And I know what you're saying right now. I know what you're thinking. Right now you're saying, Guru, that's a little too good to be true. Did it have any problems? Absolutely. A whole shit ton of electrical problems. No, and this is disappointing because it came with like lane departure warnings, a damn good suspension, Brembo brakes. It had everything, but the electronics ain't worth dealing with.